Thank you so much for your patience. We have a translator today and we're using a translation function. We were just struggling with it for a minute, but we are good now. So I just want to thank you all for your beautiful patience. Welcome. My name is Tiffany Goodwin Van Camp. I am the Executive Director of American Friends of Combatants for Peace. Thank you for joining us today. If this is your first talk with us, Combatants for Peace is a joint Palestinian-Israeli community working in solidarity to end the occupation, discrimination, and oppression. We believe in a world where all people from the river to the sea live in peace with dignity, justice, and liberty. The movement was founded almost 20 years ago by Israelis and Palestinian fighters from opposing sides who chose to lay down their weapons and work together for peace and justice. They have been nominated 2 times for a Nobel Peace Prize. American Friends is the U.S. arm of the movement, and all of us here make up a diverse community that extends beyond borders to work for collective liberation in Palestine and Israel. Our talk today is in conjunction with a summer fundraiser that we are doing for all of CFP's work on the ground. And today we are specifically talking about one aspect of CFP's work on the ground, which is confronting settler violence and systemic efforts to annex Palestinians from their lands. Some quick housekeeping before we begin. This talk will be an hour and 15 minutes. It will be recorded and we will send a copy out to you by tomorrow. We invite audience members to ask questions throughout. So if you want to ask a question, you can send it to Lindsay or Nicole from the AFCFP team. Their names say "send questions here." And as I shared, we do have translations for several of our speakers today. So if you speak English, please select the English channel to hear the translation from Arabic to English. And if you speak Arabic, then select the Arabic channel. The way that you find the channel is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see something that says interpretation, or you'll see 3 dots that say more. And if you click more, then you'll see interpretation. And then you can select your appropriate language. Lindsay or Nicole will send instructions in the chat right now as well in case you want to see that again. They'll send it in Arabic and English. I want to thank our moderator, Carly Rosenthal, who will introduce our 4 speakers. Carly is CFP's Israeli and social media fundraising manager in the Tel Aviv office. She was born in Melbourne, Australia, and moved to Jerusalem in 2018. She now lives in Jaffa and has spent the past 10 years leading anti-occupation and peace activism in Israel and Palestine. So thank you, Carly, so much for facilitating our discussion today.
Thanks, Tiffany. I see that George wants to interject, have a timeout. Yes, George, who is our interpreter. I think he's telling us to slow down. Sah? Okay. Okay. So thank you for joining us. I'll try and speak a bit slower. And George, just raise your hand if I'm speaking too quickly. Okay, so I would like to introduce our 4 speakers who are joining us today. First, we have Elie Avidor, an Israeli engineer and former combatant who grew up in Haifa. He fought and was wounded during the Yom Kippur War at Mount Hermon. Elie is a member of Combatants for Peace binational activist leadership team, and now focuses on helping Palestinian shepherd communities resist Israeli ethnic cleansing and settler violence in the Jordan Valley using protective presence. Thank you for joining us, Elie. Itamar Feigenbaum is a member of Combatants for Peace, Combatants for Peace's Israeli Board of Directors. Itamar is an Israeli activist who supports Palestinian shepherds in the northern Jordan Valley as well. Thanks for joining us, Itamar. Jamil Qassas is a Palestinian refugee whose family was displaced from their village in 1948. He grew up in Dahisha refugee camp and endured the harsh realities of the occupation during the First Intifada. Having lost his brother, mother, and many friends in the conflict, Jamil's early experiences as a combatant evolved into a deeper understanding of this cycle of violence. He is now the Palestinian General Coordinator of CFP and believes that nonviolent resistance is the only path forward. And finally, Sayel Jabareen is an activist from Ramallah. Sayel serves as Combatants for Peace's Palestinian Campaigns Manager. His role involves co-leading work on the ground in the West Bank and advocating for peace and justice for all. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. I think we will try to cover many things and also leave some time for your questions. So let's get started. The first question I want to go to is with Itamar. And I was wondering if you could share a bit about what's happening in Area C specifically, and tell us what actions Combatants for Peace are taking to support these Palestinian communities in the northern Jordan Valley.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm thinking many ways to approach this question. I think this last year, personally, I think the right way to approach it is to go back to the basics. Because I think this is, for me at least, a way not to lose the bigger picture. So what we call Area C was formed under the Oslo Accords at the beginning of the 90s. So it was a beginning of a peace process. And in this beginning part of the peace process, the agreement parted the West Bank. I'm referring now to the West Bank into 3 areas were in the Oslo Accord. They are called A, B, and C. I'm just skipping to the end because the peace process stopped after the murder of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. The situation got frozen in a situation which from the beginning was supposed to be an interim situation and not the final solution. So we're stuck from the 90s with basically the first step of a peace process. Now, it is important to understand that these area A, B, C actually the characteristics are that area A's, you basically find big villages, big cities of the West Bank, where the Palestinian Authority has administrative authority and inner security by their police. If we go to the rural areas, so we talk about the rural area of the West Bank, Jordan Valley, the south of the West Bank, we see what we call Area B, the villages. You see them, you see Palestinian villages are part of Area B, only where the houses are. It's very important to understand. Area B, the characteristic is that the Palestinian Authority has only administrative civilian authority. So from Area B and C, Israeli has total security control, any aspect. What's important to understand with Area B, the villages that are in the Area B, only the area with the houses where people live are part of the Area B. The minute the Palestinian farmer makes the first step into his olive orchard or once the first step into his field is in Area C. Area C is actually most of the West Bank. It's about 60% of the West Bank. And Area C de facto is Israel. It means that Israel has full control, the full influence, and the military Israel controls completely every aspect of life in this area. all the settlements and the outposts are in Area C. And basically everything we hear it's happening, and the effort by the Israeli government and the Israeli settlers movement is to move and clear as much as land from Area C, Palestinians back into areas, into the villages and into the cities, Palestinian cities. So it's and if you go and look at the political vision of current finance minister of Israel, Smotrich, and he's also a minister. He is also a co-minister in the defense ministry in Israel. And if you look at the political vision of former Prime Minister Bennett of Israel, they clearly state that their aim and vision is to clear Area C from Palestinians. So it's all about having minimum Palestinians in Area C, maximum land. And this is this is actually the dynamics since 1967 war, when Israel conquered the West Bank. And in the last 10 years, or more than 10 years, this dynamics gets only worsened. So the pressure on Palestinians to live the area and their way of living gets only stronger. I will finish. It's also the second point for me, and I think Elie's description after me, I guess, will go more into detail. The second important point for me is that when we go to the rural areas of the West Bank, mainly what we talk about Jordan Valley, which is almost a third, basically almost a third of the West Bank. And if we go to the south part, so basically the Jordan Valley area and the south part of the West Bank are together, this is most of the land and most of the agricultural land of the West Bank. The traditional way of farming in these areas, you have to understand that these two areas are maybe you have them sometimes one of the harshest conditions for farming on earth. So at the summer, you get the degrees, you get up to 40 degrees Celsius, centigrade. Water is very scarce. And the traditional way of living there, I'm saying traditional because it's generation, is that the farmers' communities are in villages, and their stock lives outside in the land. And what Israel does a lot also with the Israeli courts and international community, it communicates that they don't evict people from their homes because they have a home in the village, which is true. But this is the way people live for generations. So I chose to put the emphasis on this part, that in both cases, so what I described before with this partition of area B and C, you can see there's a partition between where the houses are of Palestinians and their fields are already in Israeli control. And I feel the same dynamics is on the pressure of these farmers and shepherds living on the hills, on the ground, the way their fathers and grandfathers live, again, is to evacuate them from their lands under, I don't say it in English, but like under this kind of a moral umbrella, saying that they're not evicting them from their homes because they have basically like two homes. But basically, this means that you strip away from these people their way of living, their way of earning money, the economic stability, and future of their children as education. And I think my time is up.
Thank you, Itamar. I think that was a really good kind of overview, and also like a specific thing that also I didn't know that, you know, there are these divides that sound quite arbitrary, but the difference between people are used as a way of kicking people out of their homes or pushing them off the land, as you stated. So thank you. Maybe we'll move to Elie just to also start in like with 2 sentences for those who haven't heard of the work that we do, bringing activists to non-violently resist, you know, settler violence, military violence. What does protective presence actually mean? And what's, you know, what is the situation on the ground from the day to day?
Okay, so if are we talking about the differences too regarding the war, what the war created, or?
Yes, as well, sure.
So I'll say that I asked an educator of one of the schools, religious schools, from which lots of settlers are young settlers are coming out. Asked them what's the story of these settlers, of the way they behave, what they think. So they say there are 2 things. One is they fear, and another one they own. They fear being where they are, and they feel they own all the space, all the place of the West Bank, and let alone Area C. So I asked them, and what? Okay, so they own it. What about the people that reside there, the Palestinians? So as far as they are concerned, they are transparent. They don't see them at all. So this was before the war. After the war, everything moved to an extreme. If before the fear increased, so we are doing what Carly called protective presence. We're at the Jordan Valley 24/7, all day long, all night long, because of the settler violence. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning in order to be there, drive 2 hours in order not to go through the West Bank, to go through Israel as much as possible. 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm with the shepherd going out to try to find grazing area. And that's where the conflict starts, because the settlers come out and they try to push the Palestinian shepherd off most areas. And if before the war, it was agreed that the Palestinian shepherd could come as 200, 300 yards away from a settlement, now the army demands that the distance will be an eyesight. An eyesight. If they see him from the settlement, he shouldn't be there. He should go behind the hill, such he won't be seen. This can be miles away. And in this way, they're taking away grazing area. So, and in this way, they're trying to, and the other thing is, as Itamar said, the bottom line is they want Israelis, lots of Israelis, and the government support that, try to annex the area. But they try to annex the area without the residents. So as far as many of them are concerned, they're waiting for an Armageddon, a one-time chance to kick everybody out. And this war became the Armageddon. Now they are going out. They send their hilltop youth, and these young kids, 16, 17 years old, go inside communities of Palestinian shepherds and just harass and beat and break hands and warn, if you're not getting out of here, we'll kill you, we'll do this, we'll do that. They come with their all-terrain vehicles, driving into a herd, trying to disperse the sheep. And to think about grazing in Ireland or in the States or wherever, a sheep with a green pasture, sitting there or standing there eating the grass for 2, 3, 4 hours. the Palestinian ship has to run for 3 hours from a place to place because this hilltop youth come with leaf blowers, come with their all-terrain vehicles, come with their car, driving into the herd. And if they are pregnant, they lose the sheep lose their babies. So they are being violent, and on top of it, they are supported by the government and by the authorities, by the regional council. Funny, just today or last week, we managed a legal step, because we're going to the courts, we're going to the police all the time. We report everything that is happening, and let alone we report it to the embassies as well, because as far as I'm concerned, only pressure from the outside will work. So we managed in a local Israeli court in Jerusalem to have a restraining order against one of the youth that lives just across the road from the settlements. He is not allowed for the next half year to enter the community, let alone, and he's not allowed to be closer than only 30 minutes. We asked for 200 yards, and she agreed to 30 yards. So he has to be away for 30 yards. Way back, we asked and got from the Keren for New Israel subsidy, and from Combatants for Peace subsidy, to put cameras. And we put cameras to watch and to record everything that happens. If the guy's running with his all-terrain vehicle inside the compound, we can catch it and have it on camera. And now the Palestinian Authority came and they put a whole set of very intelligent camera system. And now, after the court restraining order, the police came and took away all the cameras. Just now, just this afternoon, all the cameras they took away. So they're working against their own. You know, no court will help. No court will help if this is what the police is doing. And they did it with no notice, with no document, with nothing. Just said, if you don't take these things away, we are going to detain one of the shepherds, him and the delegate of the Palestinian Authority that happened to be there. So that's what we're fighting. That's what is happening now after the war started, and it's been a year. It's just everything is getting worse. And, you know, these shepherds are the nicest people on earth, nicest people on earth. But when people are desperate, and we trust them, we go there, we sleep there. You know that our friends tell us we're just nuts and waiting for the moment that somebody will kill us. You think like they talk about what happened in south near Gaza. You think they are your friends. Just wait a moment and they'll put the knife in your back. But we trust them, we believe in them, we sleep with them, we're there with them all day long. But, you know, Palestinians will be just so disappointed and so helpless that things will eventually something will happen, and we have to stop it as fast as we can. And I think that pressure from outside might help.
Yeah, on that note, Elie, I want to ask, maybe you could speak a bit more. What's you see like the role of the international community? How does that help apply pressure? And also, there's a question about if you can explain who are these young settlers committing violence, like in 2 sentences about the hilltop youth, to clarify that.
How you can support? You can support diplomatically. I mean, in the States, you are well connected to all your Congress people and Senate, to the Congress people, writing notes, letting them know, letting your Congress people, representatives, letting them know that you know what is happening. And whatever is done, it's not enough. It's just not enough. Given what is happening on the ground, it's not enough. The pressure is not enough. And without the US and without the Western allies, Israel cannot do anything. We know that without ammunition, we know without the aircraft carriers that came here in order to protect Israel, warning Hezbollah. Israel is dependent in spite of the big mouth of the prime minister. So we need lots of pressure. You can obviously help us with money because we need to pay the lawyers. We need to allow people to have people have expenses paid. I mean, I'm driving like might be twice many times this week, even maybe 3 times down to the Jordan Valley. I drive for 4 hours every time I go there. It costs money, and there are lots of expenses. We need to buy the cameras, and when I'll be asked, I'll talk to you about water problems that we help and subsidize. So there's lots of ways one can help from the outside. And spread the word, spread the word, spread the word.
Yeah, so on that note, if you'd like to talk a bit more about the access to water, what that looks like in the community, that would be very helpful, I think.
Okay, so the Israelis are trying to push away the Palestinians out of the area. And part of it is done, I mean, you need water for life. We are talking about half desert area. And part of the pressure is financial pressure. Water costs money. And they live off the herds. They live off the cheese. They live off the sheep that they sell, mainly during holidays, and the milk and the cheeses that they make every day. And without water, all this is impossible. So Israel, one of the things is they don't allow the local shepherds to dig for water. They are not allowed to use any mechanical tools. If the Palestinians dug some canals to gather the rainwater in the hills, the small hills around them, so they are not allowed to maintain it. They can't bring any mechanical tool. Any mechanical tool they bring will be confiscated. So, and if there's, I mean, there are piping system, water pipes all over the place, and many times on the private Palestinian land itself. But the water system pipes go to the settlements and to the army. The Palestinian living in a tent 10 yards away from the water, you can hear the water in the pipe. They cannot get any water from the pipe. There will be no tapping place for them. So this is a huge pressure on the Palestinians, and they need to buy the water. And now the Israelis put a big earth mound between the two sides, between area C and area B, in the area where we're at. So the Palestinians cannot come with their water tanks, with their tractors, driving to the nearby community, Palestinian community, and get water from them. They have to go through a checkpoint now. And the checkpoint is open only 5 hours a day. And instead, so what they need to do, they have a water truck that comes and get water from the village, has to go through the checkpoint, wait for 2 hours in the checkpoint, and then go and give water to the different communities. The Palestinian shepherd pays 7 times more than what we pay for water, for every cubic meter of water. 7 times. They cannot afford it. The truck, instead of going 7 times a day because they have to go through the checkpoint, they can go only twice, because the soldiers are not there to open the gate, or and let alone that the gate is open only for a few hours. So we, with another group, there's another group that is called the Jordan Valley Activists, set up a system of subsidizing, and we are paying half the price. If the cost is 20 shekels per cubic meter of water, which is like what, $7? They pay $7 for that. We'll pay 3.5, and the Palestinian will pay 3.5. So that's another way that, and the other thing, now summer ends and the winter comes, and they have the water holes, and we'll go out there, bring our colleagues in combatants and from other places to come and clear the canals, in order that they'll be more efficient in collecting the rainwater. And the third thing is we're trying to develop a water pump to allow a more efficient way to get a portable water pump, so the Palestinians will go to the water hole no matter where it is or how deep it is, and be able to pump out the water and get it to the ship.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Elie. I'm conscious of time as well, so I want to move to Sayel.
Sorry, I was late. I was long.
No problem. No, there's a lot to cover, and we're in a short time. So I just also want to maybe ask Sal, going off of what Elie said, what have been your personal experiences doing this work, organizing as the campaigns manager at Combatants for Peace? We've talked about many of the horrific issues that Palestinian communities are facing and have gotten worse since the war started. What has been your experience, and how do you see Combatants for Peace activists using nonviolent resistance to challenge these?
مساء الخير. احنا في المقاتلون من أجل السلام كنشطاء مؤمنين بالنضال المشترك والدفاع عن الحريات والدفاع عن العدالة للجميع. واليوم بعد 7 أكتوبر احنا بنمر في أصعب أوقاتنا اللي بتمر فيها البلاد، إنه في المجتمعين احنا بنمر في حروب وقتل وعنف شديد، ولكن احنا كمنظمة مقاتلون متمسكين في حقنا المشترك في الدفاع عن العدالة. للأسف الضفة الغربية من 7 أكتوبر آه، بتعاني من إغلاقات للمدن والقرى بشكل محكم، فكل قرية وكل مدينة محطوط عليها بوابة ممنوع الدخول والخروج، وعليها كاميرا ليلية وكاميرا نهارية، وأوقات الخروج في ساعات النهار محدودة. كل هذا الحكي عشان حق الحركة للمستوطن في الضفة الغربية أهم من حق الحركة للفلسطيني. هذا في الحركة، فما بالكم في موضوع الفلاحين والأغنام. طبعا معروف أنه المواطن الفلسطيني بيعتمد اعتماد أساسي على الفلاحة وعلى الثروة الحيوانية. ومن 7 أكتوبر لليوم أغلب الفلاحين والفلسطينيين ممنوعين يوصلوا أراضيهم، وممنوعين يعتنوا في أراضيهم، وممنوعين من رعاة الأغنام. وهذا السبب اللي هو معروف، اللي هي مجموعات وعصابات المستوطنين المسلحة اللي هدفها هي التطهير العرقي للشعب الفلسطيني وترحيل الشعب الفلسطيني وترحيله طوعا. بس احنا في مقاتلون من أجل السلام بنحاول نغطي كل انتهاكات المستوطنين، وبنحاول نأمن دعم لكل الناس المتضررين في الضفة الغربية، إن كان في جنوب الضفة الغربية في مسافر يطا، أو في وسط الضفة الغربية في بيت جالة في وادي المخرور، أو حتى في شمال الضفة الغربية اللي هو في غور الأردن، جنوب غور الأردن وشمال غور الأردن. ف مثلا في الشهر اللي فات أجانا نداء استغاثة من أصحاب أرض في منطقة بيت جالة، إنه دخلوا المستوطنين على أرضهم وحطوا بوابة وسكروها وطروهم. طبعا تحركنا إحنا كمقاتلون من أجل السلام بشكل مشترك، وطلعنا على الأرض وحاولنا إنه نرجع الأهالي للأرض، ولكن للأسف دائما الجيش الإسرائيلي والشرطة الإسرائيلية اللي موجودة في مناطق الضفة هم أغلبهم أصلا مستوطنين، مواطنين مستوطنين. فأجونا في قرار عسكري إنه إحنا لازم نبتعد كمواطنون من هون، من هاي المنطقة كمدنيين، ولكن المستوطنين ما منعوهم يطلعوا من هناك. فأجت فكرة إنه نعمل خيمة صمود مقابل الأرض، وعملنا خيمة الصمود. واللي كان المغزى الأكبر في الموضوع، المحتوى الأكبر، إنه كان
سال
إسرائيليين
سال
فلسطينيين. كان جماعات
استنى شوي.
آه
Maybe it'll be easier if you speak. George, can you translate me?
شو أعمل؟
Maybe it'll be easier if you say one sentence.
هيك سامعني؟
But
سامعين؟
Sal, can you אבל
جو-
אפשר להגיד משפט ואז הוא יתרגם? סל?
أوكي
תגיד
أكفي.
משפט כזה, לא באותו זמן. So George, we'll just have Sal say something short and then you'll translate. I think it'll be easier to understand.
طيب معروف.
Yes. So Sal, you were saying about Makhrur and what happened with Combatants for Peace in that
طيب
struggle.
من المعلوم انه من لما بلشت الحرب 7 اكتوبر لليوم المستوطنين في 500 ألف مستوطن مسلح في الضفة الغربية، غير 23 كتيبة من الجيش الإسرائيلي، كلهم معاهم أوامر قتل سهلة للمواطن الفلسطيني. لهيك إحنا بفعالياتنا في تعزيز صمود المفلحين والمواطنين الفلسطينيين كمؤسسة، لما بدنا نروح على فعالية لازم نروح بشكل مشترك، ولازم يكونوا الشركاء الإسرائيليين معنا، ودائما بيكون الاحتكاك الأولي بين الشركاء الإسرائيليين والمستوطنين، لأن هم حسب القانون الإسرائيلي ما بيدينوا المواطن الإسرائيلي، ولكن الفلسطيني دائما بيعتقلوه أو بيطلقوا النار عليه بشكل يعني عفوي وبحكم سابق. لهيك إحنا بنحافظ كمقاتلون من أجل السلام كل فعالياتنا على الدفاع المشترك. في المخرور لما رحنا على بيت جالة وعملنا مظاهرات بالثقافة اللاعنفية والمقاومة اللاعنفية، سطرنا معالم المقاومة اللاعنفية وكيف إحنا بنقدر نثبت حقوق الناس ونرجع حقوقهم بدون عنف وبدون أي احتكاك. طبعا كمان إحنا بنعمل جولات تثقيفية للناس إسرائيليين فلسطينيين اللي بتعرفوا على نضالنا المشترك وبيهتموا فيه وبدهم يعرفوا شو. بنعمل جولات للمناطق المنتهكة من المستوطنين. الأسبوع اللي فات عملنا جولة في منطقة بيت جالة، أخذنا باصين من المواطنين الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين والصحافة المحليين عشان يوثقوا ويتعرفوا على كيف آلية النضال اللاعنفي في ظل الحرب وفي ظل الهجمة الشرسة من المستوطنين. وعملنا لفة على غور الأردن، دخلنا على أراضي فلاحين فلسطينيين. مثلا دخلنا على أرض هاي البشارات أبو رياض في منطقة شمال الأردن، اللي عنده 3 أبناء و40 دنم أرض زراعية بيساعدوه. للأسف من 7 أكتوبر 8 أبناء الجيش منعهم يوصلوا أرضهم، والختيار لحاله هو بيزرع في الأرض عمره 75 سنة. لما رحنا عليه مجموعة فلسطينية إسرائيلية عشان نعزز صموده، لما دخلنا عليه صار يبكي، لأنه بيقول لي زمان ما شفنا ناس تيجي تتضامن معنا. أنا ما مش مصدق إنه في يهود وفي فلسطينية مع بعض اليوم بيجوا بتضامنوا معنا وبيجوا بدهم العدالة. فهذا الموقف أثار فيه مشاعر كبيرة، إنه الناس عن جد مجرد تشوفنا إحنا كنشطاء كفعاليين كمتضامنين نروح نقعد عندهم، لو نروح عليهم لو نروح نوثق، هذا الإشي كثير بيساعدهم. إحنا كنشطاء كخيار ثالث للنضال الشعبي اليوم بنعاني من كثير صعوبات في التواصل، صعوبات في الدعم. إحنا بنحاول نغطي كثير فعاليات، المزارعين، الثروة الحيوانية، حتى خطوط المياه اللي حكى عنها إيلي، كيف الناس بحاجة لمياه. المواطن الفلسطيني بأخذ 30% من حقه في المياه حسب منظمة اليونسكو العالمية. لهيك إحنا في أصعب حالة من حالاتنا، وبنتمنى منكم في دعمنا المعنوي والمادي على طول حتى نستمر ونكبر وتكون طريقنا هي الطريق الصح للحرية والعدالة للجميع. شكرا.
Thank you, Sal. I think, yeah, sharing that there is obviously a practical need, and we're having the Israeli and international presence in these touch points with settlers. When there is violence, when there is the military, it adds, unfortunately, it is a significant difference we see when we do have physical presence in the area. But also on a symbolic level, it's just, it's also important when we see, like you described, that interaction, that there can be another way for Palestinians and Jews to live in this land together. And, try to exemplify that. So I want to ask Jamil to share a bit about his experiences. And if you could speak slowly for the translation, that would be great. So Jamil, I want you, just to share in short about your personal experiences doing this work on the ground in Area C in the West Bank. There was a question to clarify about Makhrur, where it is. It's in Area C, in Beit Jala near Bethlehem. But also if you want to just talk about where that is and what the work there is like, as well as in the rest of the West Bank and the Jordan Valley. Technical difficulties, 1 second. Jamil, you're still on mute.
ثواني. ايوه هيك خلص. اوكي سوري، اسف. اوكي. مساء الخير للجميع. يعني خلينا نحكي عن مناطق سي. لحقوا اصدقائي وشركائي كثير عن المناطق سي. ولكن مناطق سي بتشكل تقريبا اكثر من 60% من اراضي الفلسطينيين في الضفه الغربيه. من اتفاقية أوسلو في التسعينيات، 92 93 كان ما يقارب 250 ألف مستوطن. اليوم عدد المستوطنين يفوق 800 ألف مستوطن في الضفة الغربية، ومعظمهم بتركزوا في مناطق سي. مناطق سي هي الامتداد الوحيد الجغرافي للتوسع البنائي والحياتي والتجاري لكل الفلسطينيين. من أوسلو لليوم ما تم لا تسليم مناطق بي ولا تسليم سي، وهو بناء على خطة ممنهجة من الحكومات اليمينية المتطرفة المتعاقبة، واخرها اللي هي حكومه بنيامين نتنياهو مع اليمين المتطرف اللي هو سموتريتش وبن كبير، اللي هم اصلا كانوا في السابق من الناس اللي حكم عليهم بالسجن لاعمال عنف ضد الفلسطينيين. من بعد ما توليهم الحكم بيشتغلوا على خطه ممنهجه لزيادة الاستيطان وسرقة الأراضي من الفلسطينيين المتواجدين في مناطق سي، وكمان لتقويض السلطة الفلسطينية وإنهائها وضم الضفة الغربية بشكل تام ل ما يسموه اللي هو إسرائيل الكبرى أو القدس الكبرى. عمالنا بنشوف احنا كل يوم انتهاكات المستوطنين وتزايد العنف تبعهم وبشكل واضح تماما، مش بس للعالم كله، كمان للحكومة وكمان للمجتمع الإسرائيلي، إنه بيشوفوا المستوطنين بيتعاملوا بعنصرية، باضطهاد، بقمع، بقتل الفلسطيني بدون أي رحمة، بدون أي ذريعة. العمل هذا بس بنم على عمل وحشي، عمل لا يعمله الإنسان مقابل الإنسان الآخر. يعني أنا بفتقد إن أنا أحكي كلمات عن هدول الناس إنهم لا يمتوا للإنسانية بشيء. الفترة الأخيرة تم مصادرة أراضي في منطقة بيت جال اللي هي منطقة المخروب. عدة عائلات تم تهجيرها من أراضيها في منطقة المخروب، وكنا كمقاتلين متواجدين في هذه المنطقة. قدمنا الدعم لمعظم أهالي منطقة المخرور. منطقة المخرور هي منطقة تابعة لمنطقة بيت جالة. بيت جالة هي مدينة في بيت لحم، يسكنها الغالبية العظمى من إخواننا المسيحيين، والمخرور هو امتداد لبيت جالة، والأراضي هذول هي امتداد لأهالي منطقة بيت جالة اللي هم أهلنا وأصدقائنا المسيحيين. في الفترة الأخيرة سموتريتش أعلن بناء وحدات سكنية في منطقة المخرور ومنطقة اللي هو وادي حيلتس، اللي هي المنطقة هذه اللي بتكون على أراضي قرية كتير، ما يقارب تقريبا 600 دنم تم مصادرتها. والأراضي هذه ملكيات خاصة للفلسطينيين المتواجدين في منطقة المخرور ومنطقة كتير، باعتبار للمخطط المستقبلي للقدس الكبرى، اللي هو ربط منطقة القدس اللي هي المالحة مع هارجيلو، اللي هو مع منطقة المستوطنة الجديدة اللي هي وادي حيلت، مع مستوطنات جوش عتسون، وامتداد هذه سلسلة الاستيطان لعزل مناطق ألف ومناطق ب اللي هي تابعة للسلطة الفلسطينية، وعدم توسعها في المستقبل للامتداد لمناطق سي. كل الإشي اللي بنشوفه هو إشي ممنهج من حكومة نتنياهو، حكومة اليمين المتطرف. للأسف العالم بشوف هذا الإشي على مرأى الشاشات التلفزيون والتلفون، وللأسف إحنا ما بنلاقي الدعم والإشي اللي بنفي هذول المستوطنين. أنا بتوقع إنه حكومة الحكومة الأمريكية بايدن وبما يليه اللي بده يجي بعده راح يلاقي الدعم المطلق للحكومة الإسرائيلية. وللأسف إحنا الفلسطينيين عمالنا بنشعر بالخذلان من هذه الحكومات المتعاقبة، لأنها بتشوف صدقا الظلم اللي بقى على الفلسطينيين، وما بيكون في حراك في هذا الموضوع. احنا بنشوف كمان تقريبا أخرى كم من أسبوع بصير سنة على الحرب في غزة اللي هي من بعد 7 أكتوبر، وللأسف لحد الآن كمان الحكومات المتعاقبة بتدعم الحرب هذه وبتدعم اللي هو قتل الإنسان الفلسطيني في غزة وفي الضفة الغربية. في الضفة الغربية اليوم عدد القتلى اللي من 7 أكتوبر لليوم تعدوا 700 شخص، ما بين ولد وطفل ونساء. في غزة تعدوا 40,000، معظمهم من النساء والأطفال. مش لاقي الكلمات المناسبة للحديث في هذا الموضوع، سوى أن أقول أنه الفلسطيني أصبح مجرد رقم للناس، مجرد رقم للحكومات المتعاقبة من كل المؤسسات الإنسانية اللي بكينا نسمع فيها، حقوق إنسان ومجلس أمن ومؤسسات كنا إحنا نعتبرها هي المثل الأعلى للإنسانية والقدوة لنا، ولكن للأسف صابنا الخذلان من هذه المؤسسات ومن هذا المجتمع الدولي اللي اليوم هو عاجز عن وقف نتنياهو عن مخططات. اللي بقوله كالتالي إنه إحنا كفلسطينيين وإسرائيليين في منظمة مقاتلين من أجل السلام بننادي للحرية المشتركة. بتوقع مش بس الفلسطينيين اللي بحاجة لحرية، كمان الإسرائيليين بحاجة لحرية والتحرر من الخوف اللي بيعيشوه من أيام النازية اللي كانت في ألمانيا. وأنا بتوقع كمان إنه السلام هو منطقي وإيجابي وهو الحل الوحيد. وأنا بقول إنه بما إنه الألمان قتلوا 6 مليون يهودي وإسرائيل قدرت تسوي سلام مع ألمانيا، معناته في إمكانية إنه يكون سلام مع الفلسطينيين. شكرا.
Thank you, Jamil. On that note, I want to ask, someone from the audience wants to know what kind of numbers do we have in this work and what's happening in the movement? Do we have recruits even now? Jamil, maybe do you want to speak about that?
يعني الأنشطة اللي بشكل عام بنسويها كمقاتلين إحنا، الهدف الأساسي والعمل الأساسي طبعا هو النشاط الميداني لنشطائنا الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين مع بعض. إحنا عمالنا بنتواجد زي ما ذكر صديقي وشريكي إيلي وإيتامار، متواجدين في الأغوار مع المزارعين، مع الرعاة المتواجدين في الأغوار. في الجانب الفلسطيني في الضفة خلينا نقول بنشوف وين في فلسطينيين بتضرروا من الاستيطان، بنوقف معهم بنساعدهم. موضوع المي هو موضوع حساس للفلسطيني لأنه هو الحياة، أينما وجدت المي وجدت الحياة. الفلسطيني اليوم بيعاني من وصول المياه للمجمعات الفلسطينية، حتى في مناطق ألف اللي هي بتكون مناطق سيطرة فلسطينية كاملة. هو يخصص للفلسطيني تقريبا 15 ل 17% من النسبة المئوية للمستوطن. يعني احنا بنسكن في بيت لحم مقابلنا في مستوطنة فراس. المستوطن في فراس بيستعمل المية 24 ساعة بدون ما يكون في له خزانات فوق الحيط. الفلسطيني بتلقى المي من البلدية أو شبكة المياه اللي هو بتوقع بجوز مرة واحدة في الشهر، وهذا اللي هو بسبب المعاناة للفلسطيني، وخاصة في فصل الصيف. فصل الصيف بتكون جدا معاناة للفلسطينيين بالنسبة للمياه. مجرد وضع القوانين العنصرية اللي هي قانون للإسرائيلي وقانون للفلسطيني هو بحد ذاته هو نظام فصل عنصري. مجرد انه الفلسطيني من حقه انه يمشي في شارع والاسرائيلي من حقه انه يمشي في شارع اخر، هذا هو الفصل العنصري اللي هو بتوقع احنا في جنوب افريقيا تعدينا هذه المرحله. واحنا بنحكي في فصل عنصري عمالنا بنشوفه غريب في وقتنا الحالي، ولكن هو يطبق من المجتمع الاسرائيلي، من الحكومات الاسرائيليه المتعاقبه. هو عار في ظل الزمن اللي احنا عايشين فيه. بنحكي عن فصل عنصري موجود في النظام اليومي الموجود الحالي.
Thank you, Jamil. I know there's many things to talk about, and there's a lot that I'm sure you've seen in the news, on social media, that's going around about the situation in the West Bank and in Gaza, of course. There are a few questions I want to hear a bit more about what is the impact of Combatants for Peace, or how many people are joining us at this time, because there has been such a shift, of course, in both Israeli and Palestinian societies, a lack of trust, fear, trauma. So maybe, I don't know if someone wants to speak, Itamar, if you or Elie or want to respond to that question. Itamar?
I think one objective, and I'm thinking also
It's
is
hard to
that,
hear you, Itamar.
can you hear me better now?
No.
Now, is it better?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking also back on previous on the previous wars, mainly in Gaza from previous 2 decades. I can see that, at least from my perspective, one goal and one contribution is, keep this candle of partnership, this model through these war times. This is, I think it's like the tragedy of, I guess it's like maybe it's part of the human. It's a human thing, but I feel like the first, I mean, politically or social wise, the first things to get hurt during the wartime are peace groups or partnerships that actually signified the opposing way of war. So for us, the beginning of the war is very hard because, we all, Israelis and Palestinians, we're all part of our own, also of our own societies, and we need, to maintain and keep this partnership. And I think we saw it also last year because we hold now 2 memorial events each year. One in the Israeli Memorial Day and one in the Palestinian Nakba Memorial date, and we succeeded already last year during war to have these events, and these events have big audience. I can tell from the Israeli side, because I'm Israeli, that almost for all Israelis who see themselves as part of a peace camp, these 2 events are very important to not feel alone and, hold this flame of hope and vision. And I think, as the other people mentioned, I think being part of this, again, it's also, this part of Palestinians, Israelis and Palestinians, not only from Combatants for Peace, through the West Bank and Israel, this community of activists from both sides working together. So, we contribute our share to this community. It's again to, keep this hope alive. And it's a sad thing to say, but I think the reality is that after the war will end, we'll start to rebuild again, and widen again, and talk to people that got disconnected from both sides from this vision of living together, and reach them again. So this is my point of view.
Thank you. I think, yeah, I agree. Of course, there are a lot of people who have, who have left or have lost hope. But I think we're also seeing a lot of people and new people join the movement across, our field work, but also our educational programs, the freedom schools, like our youth programs. There is young people, Israelis and Palestinians, joining and engaging with the conflict and the occupation. So I think that's also like something we can take pride in.
And I can add that at the end, the work on the ground. So you help this family and this family to go through this area. Go through these times and resist and hold on with all this violence from the military and police and settlers against Palestinians. So this bigger community of Israeli and Palestinian activists that we are part of, it's also the same way, you know, not to abandon the day-to-day life to the settlers and the Israeli government. So it's about keep helping families, but it's also about how to say, pumping information out. It's all about. So this is the main source of information are Palestinian and Israeli activists on the ground, telling what's happening every day. Otherwise, nobody will. You know, these activists are also the source for journalists in Israel and abroad, and to diplomats. I think this is maybe one of the main information sources of what's happening on the West Bank. So yeah, this is also part of it.
I can say a word.
Yeah, of course.
So people have Israelis at least is a big conflict. On one hand, they are afraid. Now during wartime, people are afraid. Things happen. People are being shot. So they're afraid to go to the West Bank and to the occupied territories. But on the other hand, the violence of the settlers, people abhor it. It's in their name, whether they believe in the philosophy or don't believe in the philosophy. They are Israelis, they are Jews. They can't believe that people behave the way they believe. And so some people gather the strength and in spite of everything are coming and joining to help the Palestinian communities. And for the Palestinians themselves, this is it's extremely important. The relationships. The relationships are extremely important. We've been doing it for years. By now, they're like they're like family, and we're like family for them. Yesterday night, as I said, I started it like at 4 o'clock in the morning. At 7 o'clock at night, when the night shift came, I was supposed to take left and drive back home for 2 hours. And then I get a call that somebody was detained, and they're asking me to take him out of the detention, out of the army camp. And I just went to the right, and I said to myself, okay, an hour, 2 hours for me is nothing compared to getting him out of detention. And I went up there and stood at the gate, and they said, who are you? Where are you coming from? Why are you here? Go away, take 200 yards from the fence of the army camp. And I just bothered them, and I talked to them, and I told them, listen, I'm here. I'm worried for him. You detained him for no reason. I'm asking that you release him, and I'll take him home, because they'll just drop him outside the fence, and he'll have to walk for an hour in the dark to go home. So I'm sure that me being there, instead of holding him for some 6 hours, they released him after 3 hours. And for me, it was a small thing. For him, I'm sure it's something you'll remember forever.
Yeah, I think a lot of our work is challenging the system of control and also challenging what people expect. So there's a few people asking, how can we support from the US? How can we, how are we able to bring this conversation to the American public? And I understand, being from Australia originally myself, the conversation is very divisive, and many people are unwilling to hear stories such as we've told on this call. But I think that's the first step, is raising awareness, is trying to share from the ground of Israeli and Palestinian activists what is the day-to-day and how people are suffering under not just a few violent settlers, but a whole system of occupation that's controlling people's lives, and that is only getting worse with the war, as we mentioned. But also, there's many ways to get involved in our work from abroad. If you're in the US, you can connect with the American Friends of Combatants for Peace. Anywhere around the world, you can support this fundraising campaign that goes directly to supporting our nonviolent activism in different initiatives, such as in the Jordan Valley. And that includes supporting the work of Jordan Valley activists. You can also follow them on social media and see what's happening and share that with your networks and your communities. And as Elie mentioned before, speak to diplomats, connect with your representatives. There are many things that you can do, and just be a part of this community, I think. And I hope that to continue to learn and to engage with this issue and not to kind of give up and shut it out, because it is really horrible sometimes. So yeah, you're welcome to support and be involved in many different ways. And I'm sure we'll send out all this information. And yes, I want to thank all of our speakers, also for bearing with us with the translation. And thank you to George, our translator. And I'll pass it to Tiffany just to close out the conversation.
Hi all. So one other action before you all jump off. With the follow-up email that we will send with the recording to this talk, we're going to send out an advocacy action that you can take right away as a part of a large push that we are all doing to write our Congress members about settler violence, to keep that at the top of line, and to ask them to continue to work on enforcing the executive order that sanctions violent settlers. So the U.S. has already taken some steps in the right direction to sanction violent settlers, and they have a long ways to go with it. They have a lot more they can do. And as Elie shared, we have access to our leaders. So we have a letter already created that you can sign yourself through our system, and we ask everybody to sign it. And also, as Carly and everyone else pointed to, we have this summer fundraiser for our work on the ground. You heard about the need to purchase security systems. We are working on purchasing and building water pumps. There's transportation, there's legal fees. There's a lot of things that go into this work. And while I can't wake up with you at 4 a.m, Elie, and be with you walking with shepherds, and that touches me and moves me so much that you guys do that, and that you're invited and welcome. And it's so good to hear you share what beautiful people these shepherds are, as I know they are, as I've spent time with them. But I can't be with you, a few times a week. What I can do is help fund what you are doing and be in solidarity with you through donations. And that's what we can all do. Really good update is right now our campaign shows we raised, I think it's like 28,000, but we've received many offline donations. So we're at $44,000 toward our $75,000 goal. We only have $31,000 left to raise. 456 people have donated. So the average gift is about $96, and you guys can help us close out this campaign. This is just one aspect of our work on the ground. We have much more. You can read about it in our campaign. And Elie used the word, the words, people do gather strength, and people are gathering strength in the midst of this time to work in solidarity together. And I just want to thank CFP for gathering the strength. And I want to thank all of you for adding strength through your participation, your activism, your advocacy, your donations, and just being here with us. So thank you all, and we look forward to being in touch soon.
Peace.
Great. Thank you, everyone.